Good evening, and thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Carbonetta, and this is Arroyo Live. This program is produced by and through the facilities of Pasadena Media. Although the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic served as the inspiration for its creation, our ever-changing world continues to bring new relevance to the forum it presents. And so it is the continued hope to help bring together and strengthen our community through informative and meaningful conversation. This program is live if you're watching on Tuesday, July 28th, and there will be an opportunity to call in with your questions or comments later on in the program. You can submit them anytime via email to arroyolive@pasadenamedia.org. Tonight, we look at how COVID-19 is affecting our nation's service workers and day laborers. I'm fortunate to be joined by Mr. Luis Valentan, Regional Coordinator for the Pasadena Community Job Center, and Ms. Julieta Aragon, Minimum Wage Outreach Coordinator for the City of Pasadena. Thank you both for joining me tonight. I'd like to ask each of you to please take a moment to tell our viewers a little about yourselves. Julieta, can we begin with you, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Joe, for the invitation. My name is Julieta Aragon, and I have been a Pasadena resident for 35 years already. So I have known about your media, your channel for quite some time already. I am originally from Mexico. I came about 40 years ago. So I do consider this country my home. Going back to Mexico is beautiful, but I always want to come back. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. And Luis?
Hi, thank you, Joe, for inviting us to this program. And yes, I'm also an immigrant from Mexico. I've been living here in this country for more than 30 years. And I'm very happy to work in the community of Pasadena. And, you know, I had the first chance to work in Pasadena with the National Day Labor Organizing Network as the director of the Pasadena Community Job Center. I started there in 2017, and since then I've been working in Pasadena as you know, as coordinating the efforts from day laborers to the community, and also from the community to the day labor community. So I'm really happy to be here and share a little bit of the experience that we have and known about the day labor community.
All right. Well, I'd like to ask each of you to expound just a little bit on your respective positions. Luis, I want to start with you. What is a day like as regional coordinator for the Pasadena Community Job Center? Can you walk us through just one day? I mean, the type of people that come in and the work that you do.
Well, yeah, you know, I'm based on Pasadena and at the job center. And basically, my position, it used to be the director of the day labor center. But then now as a regional coordinator, you know, like what I did in the day labor community center, it kind of like multiply my work, because now I have to coordinate with other 13 other day labor centers in the West Coast area. So, you know, it's just getting those phone calls, you know, answering questions from the different managers and directors of each one of these day labor centers. It's coordinating support, it's coordinating campaigns, you know, it's coordinating other efforts through other organizations that might want to jump in and help our day labor communities, connecting each one of these day labor centers with other resources, such as support from churches, support from foundations, support from other communities, you know, color communities that might want to join forces and just kind of like do the work in order for us to change our realities, right? So every day it's a chaos, you know, because we're jumping from one thing into another, you know. Things might happen from, I mean, Julieta knows how hard it is, like when we have to organize from one day to another, you know, hundreds of people, you know, just to go to a campaign and action. And it's just like what I was doing just in Pasadena. Now we have to be able to do that for each one of these other day labor centers across the state.
All right. Julieta, I have to admit, I am fascinated by your title, Minimum Wage Outreach Coordinator. Uh,
Yes.
and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about a typical day as the minimum wage outreach coordinator for the city of Pasadena, too, please.
Yes. Well, let me start with the ordinance that was passed in the city of Pasadena, which was for the minimum wage increase. And the city decided that they wanted to really do outreach to the community, especially to the Spanish-speaking community that is the ones that do most of the jobs of restaurants and labor work. And they were looking for a nonprofit that was able to do that kind of outreach. And I believe that we are the closest ones. NDLON is the closest one to working with regular workers from the work field. And so I am actually, we have the contract with the city, and I am actually the only person in charge of doing the education and the outreach in the whole city of Pasadena, which is going to include doing the education to the business owner if they have any questions regarding the minimum wage, delivering the official notice that has to be posted on the walls, talking to employees about the minimum wage, the changes, because our city is the only one around this area that has this minimum wage. And so that is what I do. I go out to businesses and I talk to employers, employees, and basically I talk to anybody that is standing on the streets. I go out to the metro stations, I go out to the community fairs, I go out to churches, I go to everybody that is willing to listen about the minimum wage. I'm more than happy to explain. It doesn't matter if it's one person or 50 persons. I'm the only one doing this. So this is great that I'm in your show, because this is another way for people to know about what is going on in Pasadena with the minimum wage. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like it's not a stretch to say that each of you is very, very busy on any given day in your respective positions. So, and we thank you very much for all the hard work that you do, both of you. As mentioned at the top of the show, we are looking tonight at how COVID-19 is affecting service workers and day laborers. And it's certainly not difficult to see that COVID-19 is having an effect everywhere. All one has to do is turn on the television these days, and the news is littered with stories of COVID's effects, and the projections, and of course the discussion about the as yet untested vaccines that are currently being worked on. But before we get into the greater discussion about COVID-19 and its effect on workers, I would like to ask each of you if and how COVID has affected you personally, whether it be as a result or how it affects the way you work, or is it perhaps a more personal story of someone you know or that you're related to that has actually become infected with the virus? If the two of you wouldn't mind each taking a turn to explain your personal experiences with it.
I'm going to go first. For me, it has been a huge impact because, like I was saying, I am doing the outreach to businesses and community fairs, and all of that was canceled, and the businesses were closed. And so I was not doing any minimum wage outreach for about 2 months. I started doing the minimum wage outreach in the month of June. And that took me a little way behind because the new increase was coming in the July 1st. So usually by July 1st, I have already covered in a number, let's say like about 400 businesses by July 1st. And this time I was so far behind. So I know I didn't go to as many businesses as I usually do. The churches were canceled. I mean, there was a lot of I really got behind on the outreach. But this is a change that has affected everybody, and so everything came to a stop, and we're just trying to deal with it. Personally, of course, it affected me at the beginning. The beginning, it was like, okay, a little break. Maybe we all need this little break. We can see the air more clean. We can see, yes, a change in nature. But after a while, I can tell you that I was a little bit anxious. I mean, right now, I'm a little bit like, I'm so just ready to just go back to whatever our new normal is going to be. I cannot even know. I cannot even picture or new normal going to be? And it's just that fact, every day that you're going out into the street and you are, it's in the back of your mind thinking, am I going to get back home? Am I going to be infected? Uh, am I going to bring this to my household? You try to take as many precautions as you can. So I'm always trusting in God that I'm going to be okay because I'm trying to take as many precautions as I can. But that's still behind your mind. Um, I guess I had 5 members of my family. They live in Nebraska and they got sick. One of my uncles did pass away about 3 weeks ago due to COVID, and so it has hit my home pretty hard. It has hit us where we already were believing and we were already seeing uh, the destruction that it was, and so to have it in my family, it was painful. It's something that you're not going to go back to. Your life is not going to be normal. Yes.
Well, Julieta, my condolences for your loss and for all of the difficulties that your extended family is going through. And certainly we hope that you will stay safe through all of this and that everyone else will come out well on the other side.
Yes.
Luis, same question to you. How has COVID affected you on a more personal level?
Well, yeah, just same like Julieta. I think the fact that this coronavirus just got into our lives just like that, it created a lot of confusion, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of questioning, a lot of insecurities. Uh, uh, and, uh, I mean, not having the answers for our kids when they're asking questions, not having responses, right? Not having any solution, not having nothing. It creates a lot of emotionally and psychology instabilities. But I think that um, it's a learning process. Not knowing nothing about this. Like, I mean, at the beginning, we didn't really know nothing about this coronavirus except following these new regulations, uh, wearing a mask. These new things change our lives dramatically, right? Like the fact that we have to use a mask every day as much as we can, gloves, a hand sanitizer, understanding all these protocols that we have to go here, there, it's creating a lot of stress. um, that's the way it's been affecting me. The other way is kind of like, the work that we do, we serve a lot of people. So, not only our family members are asking, right? Not only the fact that I have to be thinking about my kids not getting infected, where they go, how, like who they're interacting with. My mom, which is an old lady that has diabetes, like I gotta be really careful. I'm exposing myself a lot by doing my work, and being afraid all the time, like not to get into close to people, like, uh, our work requires that kind of thing, requires to be in contact with people. It requires to attend to these people, that are seeking for support, that are seeking for resources. So, it's really, really hard for me not to be there for even the members at the job center, right? But at the same time, thinking about my family and thinking about the workers' families. So it creates a lot of confusion, a lot of instability. But on the other hand, it kind of like increase our work. You know, we understand that for some people, work became like a huge issue. By losing their jobs, by cutting their hours, by this, by that. And then in our case, kind of like increase our responsibilities, increase our hours. So that's another thing, but also we also try to keep our minds healthy and positive and see the good side of it. Like Julieta was mentioning, like the fact that a lot of factories kind of like stop. We can see uh, more blue sky. Like clean air. Like we don't see a lot of traffic on the roads. Um, things like that. So on the other hand, we also kind of like learning to practice more sustainable self-care, you know, such as washing our hands more often, you know, making sure that we clean the areas where we're like interacting, you know. So it's there's a lot of positive things, but you know that's the way, you know, it kind of like affected my life. I also, like Julieta, I also lost family members because of the coronavirus, and um, it's really sad, you know. I think in so many ways the saddest part is like, you know, not even being able to say goodbye to them, not even being able to be there, you know, and the family members, you know. It's really sad to see how the people who's passing away, you know, they have to they have to say goodbye from a distance, right? So I think that's the other saddest thing that, you know, has been happening. So, you know, it's I mean, there's nothing we can do right now. It's just like trying to process that in a way that it won't create damage in our hearts, you know. So it's just it's sad. It's just really sad.
Luis, again, our condolences go out to you and your family as well. Certainly, this virus, this pandemic, has a personal connection for each of you, and it does for a great number of Americans across the country. Certainly, right now, the big political hot button is economic related. It has to do with earnings and the lack of jobs, the economy slowly grinding to a halt, and of course, most recently, the discussion about unemployment and what is going to happen for all of those workers across the nation that are currently without jobs. That brings me to my next question for both of you here this evening. For those service workers, and a lot of them were termed essential from the beginning and remain so now, there are a whole new unique set of challenges that have been presented as a result of COVID. I would like to take a moment to discuss those. Uh, as both of you have mentioned, um, there is the issue now about cleanliness and maintaining minimized contact. But certainly there it's deeper than that. There are issues with securing proper PPE, employers that may or may not be willing to comply. I'd like for each of you to take a few minutes to discuss, from your perspective, the challenges that are currently facing those considered essential, as well as the day laborers.
On my part, what I see, what I've been seeing is about so many employees being laid off. It's really challenging. Uh, they don't have a lot of people that work out in the work field. They cannot even apply for any kind of help from the government. For instance, this employment, they cannot apply for that. So it has been a really struggle, and I think that one of the things that maybe Luis can confirm is that actually the day laborers, people that used to be working in restaurants, used to work in the regular field, or minimum wage workers, are going into the field of doing day laboring, which is something that is more on a daily basis. So it's very complicated. All the businesses reduce the staff. So I've been reaching out to the businesses. Everything is the restaurants. Their food is to go, so they only have about 3 people in staff. It's just been. I mean, it's incredible how hard it has hit the working community.
Luis, same question to you.
Yes, yeah, I think in so many ways, you know, it's hard, you know, like even before the COVID, you know, it was hard for day laborers, right? It's the labor community is considered one of those communities that, you know, um, are not considered as formal workers, and it's considered one of the lowest class, you know, workers, and their labor contributions and work are not respected, right? Are not valued the way they should be. You know, workers were essentials in so many ways, in some other natural events such as earthquakes, such as hurricanes, such as wildfires, and still workers that are doing, this type of work day by day are not considered, essentials, right? Now with this pandemic, in so many ways they became essential. So a lot of the employers, even though the pandemic situation um, created that conflict with their jobs, some of them, like Julieta was saying, they lost their jobs, they don't have an income as before, but still, even though they're not working, they're getting an income because um, they're applying for the how do you call this support, the unemployment, right? And then also these other support, financial support locally, at a state level and federal level, they were kind of like okay, right? But not the day labor community. So even though the employers didn't have a job, they didn't really want to do the staff right around their house because they were afraid to go out with this, that. So they required their laborers to do that, But that kind of like created a lot of other conflicts, and also not being at the job site as before, it creates that kind of confusion, right? Like the workers to go to do the job. How is it that we're gonna deal with the employer? How the employer is gonna get paid, or the employer being afraid, not knowing which workers are are not infected, or which workers are okay to go to work. And there's a lot of things that kind of like hard for us, to address or to work on. And then we've been learning through all these situations, right? So right now we're serving workers through a phone, online. We kind of like open the job center as a virtual center, and the employers are kind of like adapting themselves to these new regulations that we have as well. But injustices for the workers are still happening even with this pandemic, right? um, there's a lot of people who's been hiring workers and not getting paid, and they don't want to pay the right wages. They're using the narrative of not having a job and saying like, we don't have a job, I cannot pay you this amount of money, right? They're devaluing their work, they're devaluing their efforts, right? So that's a problem for us too. So I think that's pretty much what it's been happening right now in a kind of situation.
So, has the current pandemic resulted in increased traffic for each of your respective organizations, or have you seen a decrease in visitor traffic to your organizations?
In my case, it has been a decrease.
Okay. How about for you, Luis?
uh it's an increase, you know um a lot.
Okay. Um, the next question that this brings to mind is the current situation with the government trying to decide what to do as far as unemployment assistance is concerned. The Republicans currently arguing over whether or not to continue the $600 wage increase or to submit something else. Does that affect, or have you seen an effect from that in your respective organizations, or again, is that a situation where the vast majority of the workers that you deal with are unaffected by the unemployment benefits or the loss of them?
In my point of view, from what I see, well, I think that we are all aware that the unemployment was, I mean, it was still last month, and some people were actually calling me, asking me what can they do because they were still not receiving their checks from the unemployment. I saw the stress that it caused on them because they were not receiving any kind of help from financial help from nowhere. Paying the rent, it was not one. And so from my end, what I saw is that I saw a lot of stress in that well-being about not receiving the unemployment. And some of them, because of the legal status, because of social status, they did not were not applying for unemployment. So those are the people that I saw that they had no other way but to go and walk into the Pasadena Job Center, like I said before, from working in restaurant to going in and seeing if at the Pasadena at the job center they could get hired, because there was no help from them financially, any kind of help.
Well, is there an employment crisis in the city of Pasadena, let's say, the way there appears to be in larger cities like Los Angeles and cities across the nation? Is there a large percentage of the population currently out of work or unemployed in the city of Pasadena?
I believe there is. I don't have the exact number right now, but I know that there is a lot because of so many businesses closing. So there is a very large amount of people not being able to work.
And Luis, with the Pasadena Community Job Center, your operation helps to place out of work employees in new jobs. Are there jobs available right now, or are the jobs in scarce supply?
Well, it's really hard right now. And I think just like Julieta was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of labor areas where like they lost their jobs. So they're coming to the job center. And then just a little bit to the question before, we can see how the community members are coming to the day labor center. Even though we were closed, we're not accepting any new memberships, but we can see the increase in, of people looking for a job, and that's like everybody, it used to be a lot of the Latino community. Now we see all communities coming to the job center and, looking for a job. There is no jobs like before. There is some, right? But we try to connect, not just through companies, through small business owners, through contractors, even homeowners. We're connecting workers through all these other areas, and we're trying to do our best. When unfortunately we cannot serve all the community. And just a little bit about the unemployment, how this, if this is affecting the workers or not. I think it does in so many ways, because it kind of like creates that separation and the conflict between communities, right? Because only those who have legal documentation are able to apply for unemployment or these other supports, and then when we push for support from local level or state level or federal level, that kind of like community gets angry with the not documented community, because they're saying like they don't deserve it, so it creates that kind of conflict, and what I want to say is that, even the undocumented community is been contributing in so many ways to this country. They pay taxes every end of the year. They pay taxes every time they go to a store. They contribute not only with economic but also culturally and in so many other ways. And then it's unfair, the political class. It's kind of like putting all of our communities in that situation, So that's why I say it affects our communities in a way that separates us, and that's not fair. But like in so many ways, the organization, the National Day Labor Organizing Network, has to do a lot of things, right? Along with other organizations, in order for us to make things equal, right? It is hard because, the political class, always find a way to separate and create these kind of conflicts. All these things could change very simple. The political class is making a big debates in order for them to decide, what's the best way to support communities and people right now with this pandemic, right? And it's very simple, but they don't want to do it because they know that we're going to be divided. They know that we're going to be struggling. And a good example of coming along, and working together and support each other as a community is what we've been doing in Pasadena, with the Mano a Mano project. We're not expecting from the government or anybody else to come and help. It's the community itself, understanding that, those that we are helping right now, they're our neighbors. We're not searching for any other people. We're just helping our neighbors. That is the people that we have to focus on and help. And that is very beautiful, to see that everybody, and Julieta started it, coordinating the program. So she knows how good this program is right now. And that is an example. And the government should be looking into this kind of structure, because, that's how you help the community. That's how you appreciate the efforts and the contributions that we all do, no matter what. If you have documents or not, they should be in the best disposition to support everyone right now, and canceling the rents and canceling of a lot of other things, the credits, the credit cards, the banks. I mean, it's just crazy how we have to keep paying and increasing our debts, uh, and not the banks or not the big corporations, not paying their share or not being equal or not being fair, and that's what makes me mad. And that's what I'm saying, it affects us in so many ways, so yeah.
Well, as I'm sure you're both aware, within the last month, there was another increase to minimum wage. And I'm wondering if I could gain both of your insights as to what effect that has had on the job market and the current employment crisis.
When at the beginning of the pandemic, there were some businesses, large businesses, restaurant owners, and the Chamber of Commerce that were trying to put a pause on it. But as we can see, everybody appreciates, especially in these times, can appreciate the importance of the minimum wage increase. And so there was actually no, even the business owners, as I'm going out and visiting the business owners, they knew it was happening, and they didn't really, the small business owners actually did not really push back. It was more a couple of restaurant owners and Chamber of Commerce that had a little bit of a pushback, tried to put this into a pause, but not the small businesses. So it was quite a surprise, because I feel that they understood that this is a moment where everybody needs that extra pay. Did that answer your question, Joe?
Do you feel that it has contributed to the steady decrease in the number of available jobs? With employers having to pay increased wages to employees at a time when revenues for most businesses are almost going through the floor. Do you think that this has had an effect on the availability of employment, not only in Pasadena, but on a larger scale, perhaps even across the nation?
Okay. I feel that it has affected all businesses. I feel that it has affected, because as we're saying, restaurants are not fully open yet. But I also feel that that everybody is trying to look for other areas of work. So I don't feel that it has affected. I mean, we still have a lot of disappointment, but it's just, I don't see it related to minimum wage at all. It's just due to the COVID situation.
All right, and Luis, a slightly different question to you, in that, did the minimum wage increase, have day laborers seen any benefit from that, or are they largely immune to those types of increases? That is to say that as day laborers, oftentimes employers will pay those type of workers under the table, so to speak. So do they get the benefit of these wage increases, or has that largely not affected the day labor community?
Well, I think in this world, everybody deserves a good job and a good salary in order for us to change our realities, right? When we experience the minimum wage, and then we experience like high levels of living, it is hard for a family to survive. And then we recently had a problem with some of the business owners in Pasadena when they were like trying to push down and take away the minimum wage that we earned a year ago, because they said we're suffering. This pandemic has been creating a lot of economical instability, and then we don't think it's fair to pay $15 an hour to these workers. You know, um, it is really sad when they think that way because they're wealthy business owners, and the people that they have they're working. It's people who barely can make it. It's families that live with 3 or 4 members of their families in one small apartment. Sometimes they have to pay $300 just for a piece of bed. And, it's people who can barely make, a livable life with that kind of salary. And then they're not working. And all this time that they haven't been working there, and then when they get back, they're going to make less. That is crazy. That is insane, right? So I think in so many ways, uh, this is a good moment even for the community that end up not having a job right now. When they come to the job center and they say like, I can do whatever, and then when they go and clean up a yard, they see how hard it is to clean a yard, or how crazy it is when an employer comes and they say like, it's just to take all the trash that I have in the back. But when you get there, you see pieces of metal, concrete, this, that. It's not just taking out the trash. It's just a hauling job. And people can realize, how hard this job is. Day laborers, when they started the fight of increasing the minimum wage to $15. But even though they went a little bit more than that, at the job center, the workers decide that the value of their work per hour, it's $20. And that's even a little bit lower because the efforts that they do to this job, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of, uh, yes, a lot of things, right? But uh, the workers keep in their minds that, there is no way, not even in this pandemic, that they're gonna lose that what they earn, what they already work for so many years. And they're not gonna give up because when Victor Gordo came up or I don't know who, and they said that they were gonna take the minimum wage down, the day labor community, along with other community members, they came and they fought again and they pushed not to do that, right? So I think in so many ways you can see that the unfair treatment, that the political class is creating, focusing only in what the business owners, their friends or relationships or whatever, and not the working class community that they work for. They supposedly they should be representing our community members, and they're not. They're thinking about their friends who own business, who own money, who own banks accounts. They have a saving fund and everything, and they're not thinking about the families. Some of them, they have a narrative saying that they understand that they live they lived in a garage, and it's really sad to see or hear that they don't care right now, that the families are suffering right now. Even with this pandemic, a lot of them are ending up with not having a job, experiencing displacement, experiencing threats, experiencing abuse policemen, experiencing a lot of things, and I think in so many ways you can see through this pandemic how unfair this political class is being with our working class community.
All right. Before we continue on with the questions, I would like to point out that we are more than halfway through the show, and that is normally the time where we open up the phone lines So if you'd like to call in with your question or comment, if you are watching our program on Tuesday, July 28th, we are live, and you can reach out to us at area code 951-356-6882, and we will put you on the air with your questions or comments. Okay, back to the questions. Julieta and Luis, I would like to ask uh, if you have heard of situations where uh, laborers are or essential workers are concerned about safety. What has been the general consensus in terms of how safe people feel having to go to work in these essential positions or in these day labor positions? And as Luis, as you pointed out, oftentimes those titles are one and the same. That it is day laborers that are going out and doing a lot of the essential work. But do these people feel safe going out? Are they getting the proper protective gear that they need? Do they feel that they're being given proper information, proper instructions? What is the feeling among those workers?
I think in so many ways, workers understand that, they're not safe, and not only because of the lack of resources in Spanish, or because of the lack of resources in providing that equipment, right? But they understand that there are risks in so many ways, because they're like one of the most vulnerable communities, with the lack of a lot of other things, such as a good salary, such as a good job, you name it, right? So I think they understand that. But you know what? In their heads, in the reality, they have to go to work. They have to be responsible. Even though there's like a moratorium that the people is working on in this and that, they still thinking like, I have to pay my rent. I have to I have to buy food. I have to make sure that my family is okay, right? So um, it is really hard, to see that, the government never had a plan to help, to support, and even to care. you know a lot of the community members, workers, working class, and undocumented folks won't even have the time or the place for them to get access to help. So that is another issue. Right now we heard the fact that, there's free testing, this, that, but you know what they're getting? They're getting the bill on the mail, $200, $700, just to pay for those corona tests. So imagine what this create in their minds, right? So that's why the National Day Labor Organizing Network took the job of, creating Spanish materials, videos, PSAs, a lot of things for us in order to help the working class community, especially day laborers, right? Because they have to go out and look for a job. They have to go out and eat for the day. They have to go out and bring income for their families, right? So uh, we made a campaign to create a mask and take them to the workers, along with materials in Spanish. And this is one of the most craziest things. Most of the information about the coronavirus was in English, and a lot of it was in Spanish, but a very, very technical Spanish. So a lot of people, they didn't understand these kind of like names, or you name it, right? Like a lot of the information, right? Because a lot of the community members don't even speak Spanish. They speak mom, they speak quiche, they speak a lot of other idioms, and it's really hard and sad to see that nobody was doing that effort in communicating. And just to share a little bit of one story, I was at a corner bringing materials to the workers, and I asked one of them, are you guys, how is everything changing with the coronavirus? And then it happened that these workers were like from Guatemala, and then they didn't speak well Spanish. So, one of them say like, I don't drink. He thought I was talking about Corona, the beer, right? And he said, I don't drink. So we knew that we needed to do something about it, right? And come back and make sure that, they really understand what these names mean. It means you might end up dead. It means you might end up infecting other people. It means that you are in a threat moment right now, you know? So that's why we create all these materials and do outreach and risk ourselves, risk our lives, risk our families. But we have to do it because you know what? Nobody else is doing it, not even the government. You know, until today, we haven't seen any mask or equipment for a lot of the nurses. A lot of the janitors, they have to pay from their own pockets to get mask, to get gloves, to get hand sanitizer. So that's crazy. And I think in so many ways, um, we can see, like I said again, right, the injustice, the you know the government it's doing against our community members at this moment.
Julieta, I'm going to direct this one to you primarily, although Luis, please feel free to chime in on this as well. But uh, with the minimum wage increase that we just recently got, is it your sense that this is enough money for people to get by during the pandemic, or is the cost of living just too high for people on the minimum wage to really survive even now?
I think that that question is like it's no, it's not enough. $15, it's still not enough. I mean, we're talking that you are paying here in Pasadena a one bedroom apartment that goes from $600 to $800. Now imagine having those kids. It's not enough. The way the studies have come back, it says that if we wanted it to be doing a livable wage, which will be a minimum wage, but to be living comfortably, we will have to be at $21, $20 to $21 an hour. So it's not enough.
And that $21 an hour figure, that obviously is based pre-COVID, but based on today's cost of living, I would assume then that number probably would be too low within 1 or 2 years.
Yes. I still think that right now with the COVID, a lot of people did not work. So this is the part where it was very unjust when when people were trying to put a pause to the wage to the raise. As we know, the rents have been they've been put on pause. So once the worker goes back to work, they're going to need that little extra money to be able to pay the past due months of rent. So they're going to need more cash in their pockets to be able to be up to date. So $15 is still not enough, but as you know, as long as they didn't put a pause, that was a big win.
Okay. Luis, you mentioned earlier that prior to the onset of the pandemic, the vast majority of the people that you were seeing in your office were probably part of the Latinx community, but now you are seeing uh, more, a larger, more diverse group of people coming in seeking employment. But has it been your experience, and Julieta, for you as well, that the Latinx community is more affected by COVID, and not just the infection rate, but also the unemployment rate, and the difficulties in getting by today? Would you say that they are disproportionately affected compared to other races, other cultures, other groups?
I,
Yes.
yes. Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Luis.
No, yes. And yeah, I think the um, the fact that the Latino community is being displaced because of the wealthy community, and this is a little bit about what has been happening in Pasadena. A lot of wealthy community came, and then a lot of displacement started happening at Pasadena. So that is a huge problem there, right? But on the other hand, just answering your question about the Latinx community being affected, yes, in so many ways. But that's because the unfair way to distribute the wealthy from this city, right? And then letting just the rich get more rich, but the poor more poor, and giving the best for the wealthy community, but for the other community, whatever, right? So I think that's very, very sad to see. But also on the other hand, even though the Latinx community, it's been affected the most, they're finding ways to survive. They're finding ways to support each other, which makes a huge difference, right? And then we're not gonna leave on the side the effort or the fact that other community members, white community, black community, Asian community, are coming along and help us in so many other ways. But I think there's still something that it needs to be happen, and that's creating efforts to change the system that it's been oppressing our Latinx and other communities, other color communities, not getting in a different situation, not sharing that those uh, opportunities, right? And that's why it's been a really it's been really affecting our Latinx community, but also it's one of those communities that is gonna get infected even more, and then that will be a risk even more. And this is something that they don't really want to understand, the political class, right? Because we don't have access, we don't have opportunities, we don't have resources, we don't have equipment, we don't have a lot of other things. So we have to find a way, even though a lot of people, they know that they're infected, they have to go out and look for things to survive. So, in order for the government not paying attention to this or making what they need to do, this is what's going to happen, and sadly, that's how it affects everyone, not just the Latinx, but everyone.
All right, Julieta, did you have something that you wanted to add to that?
I think I agree 100% with Luis. It just comes down to immigrants always doing the job, Latinx always doing the jobs that other people don't want to do. That's it.
All right. Well, before we do run out of time, we have just a few minutes left, but I would like to take this opportunity to allow each of you to give out contact information if somebody should want to get in touch with either of your organizations. And again, Julieta, can we begin with you? How would somebody reach you if they had questions or wanted to speak with somebody in your office?
Well, my office is located there at the Pasadena Job Center, which is it's on the corner of Bela and Lake Avenue, 500 North Lake. That's where I'm located. And sometimes I'm out in the field, so if they cannot find me, they can always leave a message.
Well, is there an email address that you can be reached at also?
Yes, it is. My first name, Julieta, Julieta, at NDLON.org, NDLON.org.
Okay.
426-676-8448. They can always leave me a message there.
All right, fantastic. And Luis, for you as well, how would anyone get in contact with you at the Community Job Center?
Yes, people can call the 626 area code 440-1201, or my cell phone, which is 213 area code 399-7024. And my email is my first name, just the first letter L, and my last name Valentan, V as a Victor, ALENTAN at NDLON.org. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Certainly, thank you very much for that information. I know that the viewers at home really appreciate that as well. Luis, this one I think will be directed mostly to you, but certainly in pre-COVID times, we would often see day laborers congregating on certain streets in the area of Pasadena, as they do often in many communities. And those areas become widely recognized as places where you can find day laborers for specific jobs. But in the COVID era, is that continuing? And if so, what risks is that presenting for day laborers that might be not practicing social distancing? And of course, there's always the potential for a prospective employer to not have taken proper safety precautions. Can you talk a little bit about that in the couple of minutes we have left?
Yes, the labor community is still looking for jobs on the corners, and then there was a moment where the police tried to criminalize that, and using the COVID-19 as an excuse to push the day laborers community members out of the corners, which it didn't happen because we were there allegating and educating the police as well, right? And then instead of them being harassing the workers, we said, like, why don't you bring the resources that they need? Let us come and then we'll do the information for them. So we talked to the day laborers about social distancing, and we even asked for some of the council members to work with us and put portable hand washer, and we've been sharing masks, we've been sharing hand sanitizer, we've been sharing materials. So, there's no excuses for people to come and hire workers because they're like taking this very seriously, very serious. And then we're providing what the government is not, what the political class is not doing. So, which is the education, understanding, equipment, and a lot of our love, because to do this we have to have love for our community, and we love our community, so that's why we're there. And as you can see in the corners, the major corners on Villa and Orange Grove, everybody's wearing their mask, everybody's wearing their gloves when they need to, and they're very aware about these topics.
All right. Well, in the last minute or so that we have left, Julieta, I would like to ask if, in addition to your organization, are there other organizations where people can go for outreach in terms of employment?
For unemployment, I'm sorry?
Well, just as a minimum wage coordinator, are there other organizations in addition to yours where people can go? No, you are it.
Well, actually, the Pasadena, there's somebody in Villa Park, the Villa Park Resource Center, and there's somebody actually at Jackie Robinson also, that either they refer them to the city or they refer them to me. So yes, both of those places.
All right. And same question to you, Luis, and any additional resources that you are aware of that you can point?
Just to let the community, especially in Pasadena, that there's the food bank now at the job center. It opens its door as a food bank, so people can come and grab food. Or other resources that we have is that every 2 weeks, I believe, we're gonna start having COVID tests at the job center. But we can post that on our website or the Pasadena Community Job Center Facebook page.
All right. Well, I thank you both very much. I think we've run out of time. Ms. Julieta Aragon and Mr. Luis Valentan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And again, certainly people can contact you at the information you gave earlier if they'd like more information on any of the things we've discussed this evening.
Thank you.
To those of you at home, if there are topics you would like to see addressed in our discussions, you can email them to us at arroyolive@pasadenamedia.org, and we may include them in a future broadcast. This has been Arroyo Live. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.